Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to week 10 of Farm to Table. Can you believe we only have 3 more weeks left? I cannot. This block has flown by, and you guys have really done an amazing job with your assignments, and appreciate all of your participation. And I really look forward to these next 3 weeks and seeing what you're going to bring to the table. So before we get into this week's assignment, any questions, comments, or feedback about your week 9 assignment? Pickles, sauerkraut, creme fraiche, preserves, anyone want to share? Don't be shy.
We've got some comments in the chat. Jam was sweet, so adding more lemon. Others saying jam was awesome. So that's definitely falling into personal preference and palate, right? So for some people, just like the quick bread in the previous week was a little too sweet for others, and for others it was just perfect. So that's will happen with the jams as well. Just like, I forget who mentioned it last week, but adjusting the acidity and sweetness in the pickles as well. Again, that's coming down to personal preference, right? So having that base layer and foundation of understanding, then you know how to adapt it or tweak it. Just like if you add too much cayenne pepper or chili flakes to a recipe that it calls for, you say, wow, that was really too hot, then you adjust it for the next time and lower that spice level. So this is how you want to keep moving and improving and making slight adaptations to recipes. Yeah, Jorge, I see your hand up.
There we go. It takes me a little while to get on mute here. I just want to say that the preserves, essentially, I have learned how to make gummy bears. After using that pectin that I use erroneously, I put that in the refrigerator, and now I'm cutting chunks of little gummy bears, which actually they're really good. But I did remake it with the strawberries, and I bought the correct pectin, and it's just marvelous. But I just recommend for those that like gummy bears, follow my steps, my mistake. They came out great.
Awesome. Sometimes the greatest inventions come out of mistakes. So that's awesome. Glad you enjoyed. Kathy,
you got it? You want me to do it? All right. Are you able to unmute, Kathy? No. Okay, try again. There you go.
Okay. Well, we like the pickles. They were sweet and tangy. We enjoyed them. We also like the jam. And the creme fraiche actually took me by surprise. It was a really good, it was a little tartar than what I'm used to on the sour cream, but I think it's going to be really good. I enjoyed it. The only thing I'd like to adjust, and I'm not exactly sure how to adjust it, I added some dill in the pickles, and I'd like to adjust it up just a little bit more because it still wasn't quite enough dill. But that would just be for me to play with to find out where to stop. But we actually enjoyed it, and it actually surprised me because I'm used to the much longer canning type process.
Yeah, definitely short pickling, right? Quick pickling, which is essentially this, is very different from a longer canning process, because remember, you are heating that again when you do a full canning process to get to a shelf stable result. You're then putting that in a water bath traditionally, which cooks again, just like if we look at canned products, right? That's maintained under high pressure and high temperatures. That's why we see those discolorations in those products. And it's due to the application of heat and extra heat. So I'm glad that you enjoyed it. A quick, easy way to get some tasty results as opposed to going through the full process of canning. Now, remember, the important thing is that they are not shelf stable. So they do need to be refrigerated in order to maintain proper safety.
Yeah, Amber, it can take some time, and you just have to be patient and know that you can turn in what you have with your assignment. You know, as long as we see you've gotten the process started, that's what we need to know.
I have seen that some people are not putting weights on their sauerkraut. This is really important to have that extra pressure. Pressure is always good, right? Because then it's gonna help break down and get that release of excess moisture coming from the cabbage. Additionally, a lot of positive results when you actually massage work that salt into the cabbage itself. That's going to help release that moisture quicker. So if you're seeing that you're not having any real release, I would suggest washing your hands, putting on some gloves, and then giving that a good massage, just to get those juices flowing. That's just going to help activate and break down that cellulose a little bit quicker as well.
Kathy, did you have something else? No? Okay. All right, cool.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Elevation usually has the most impact on temperature, not fermentation, as far as I know, but I would have to do more research into that to see if, Chef, do you know if elevation has any impact on fermentation?
Not to my knowledge, but you know, with higher elevation, you're going to have cooler temperatures. So that could be why, Amber.
Indeed. I do want to make two quick announcements that are really important. Remember, this is week 10. That means all makeup work needs to be communicated to Chef Lee or myself so that we can open up your assignment. All right, so that means communicate with us this week. What are you planning to make up if you're planning to make up anything? We need to have that in and submitted by no later than Tuesday at 11:59 p.m. of next week. That is June, let me just pull up the date. That is June 15th. All right, so June 15th. So be sure that you're communicating with us prior to, so that we can open those up so you can submit. Additionally, oh yeah, Chef.
The deadline for my class, as you all know, is tonight at midnight. If you need time beyond that, reach out to me.
All right. Sorry, yeah, that was just for my class. I thought we had the same schedule.
That's fine.
And then another note, still, hopefully everybody's getting excited and didn't forget about Farmer Lee chef box, mystery box that's coming down the pipeline. We still have not found out what exactly will be in the box. So keep the mystery on edge, but just remember, think about you know, what we've talked about, spring, some potential items that might be coming out. Remember, you're thinking about spring seasonality and how you want to make a really beautiful dish out of that. We do think that the Farmer Lee talk will be in week 12. We were trying to get it into week 11, but last I heard it's going to be in week 12. But we will be giving you updates whenever we find any of that information. Is that all the notes that you had? Oh, and then just a reminder, remember, we are cranking it near the end of the class. So that means that week 11, 12, or, you know, wraps up really quickly. It comes and sneaks up on you. And this class is a strict cutoff of that Sunday. And that gives us enough time to grade everything. And then we all get to go on summer break. So just be prepared that week 11, 12 is going to be edging in on you closely. So just keep a tight eye on the calendar, as well as text or Moodle, message updates from Chef Lee or myself. Chef, did you have any other announcements other than that?
Mark asked if the surprise box is like Chopped. Yes, essentially it is. You're not going to get your protein, but you will get some vegetables to work with. We'll find out hopefully soon what you're going to be getting. So usually it's some microgreens, a green vegetable, and then they've gotten potatoes in the past, kohlrabi, radish, green beans, tomatoes, peas. Sorry, I got distracted by the chat.
I got you, Chef.
Barbara, that's makeup work tonight. Do it midnight tonight. Yeah, so you're going to get this box full of wonderful stuff. We've shown you some things from the Chef's Garden website, and we can take a look at that today if you want to and get an idea of what's in season, and kind of get the wheels turning about what you might do with for your starch and your vegetable. Who else knows the four who knows the four components to your final plating? What do you have to have on it? Right, starch, protein, sauce, and veg. Can we just take about 10 minutes here and talk about, okay. So when you're thinking about your sauce, and if you'll put this in the chat, what comes to mind for you when you're thinking about, putting these four things on a plate? Mother sauces. What else comes to mind? When you think of a sauce, if you're making something at home, what might that be? Appearance sauce, okay. Gravy, curry,
mushroom, roux, garnish.
What about chimichurri? What about a remoulade? I want you to think outside the box here. So you don't necessarily need to do one of the mother sauces. We'd love to see you do one of those, but you could also do a beurre blanc. That would be an awesome thing to put on your plate. If you're doing some fish for your final plating, it'd be a really nice accompaniment to that. Salsa, chutney, these are some of the things that are coming up in the chat. So when you're thinking about your final plate, and this is how I would approach it, and Chef, I'd like to hear how you would approach it. I would go to the store and see what protein looks the best, and not necessarily buy it at that time, but then let that start kind of getting the wheels turning. I see that they've got some really great ribeyes this week. So I would come home knowing that I'm going to go back probably the next day and purchase this protein and create a plate that has a starch and a vegetable and a sauce that would complement that ribeye. Think about your technique that you're going to use. Are you going to grill? Are you going to fry? Are you going to braise? Are you going to baste? And think about what's going to look nice on your plate. So we really want to see you show us, demonstrate the techniques that you've learned from the beginning of the course, from the beginning of the program. When you are plating your final project, really put some thoughtfulness into how things are placed. Show some depth on your plate. Show some color on your plate. Yes, a barbecue sauce counts if it's homemade. We don't want to see anything out of a box or a bottle or a jar in this assignment. So if you're going to put barbecue sauce on your plate, make it from scratch and show us that you've made it from scratch with your mise en place. As we get closer to week 12, we'll go into more specifics about the photo requirements. Richard, white potatoes, the same as russets. Not all white potatoes are russets.
Waxy and starchy that are coming in generally in white potato form.
Barbara asked, so what we are using in the boxes for our final, right? Yes, you will get your box in time. Don't worry about that. You might get it a little bit early. So we will verify everyone's address coming up here in the next week or so and give you an idea of when it will be delivered. You don't have to use everything, but we certainly encourage you to. You're going to have some amazing things to use. I can pull up.
And remember, you can also, sorry, just to jump in here, Chef, you can also make an extra course if you would like to. If you don't feel that one of the ingredients pairs well with your concept and your idea of your dish, don't force putting something in that's unnecessary. But I would suggest, hey, creating an awesome little app or an amuse-bouche, which is used to excite the palate at restaurants to get the diner excited. And highlight one of the ingredients that maybe you perhaps can't fit into your dish into a starter or an amuse-bouche, which would be really fun. Definitely international cuisine, 100%. Let your imagination run wild, have fun. Cooking is cooking, and just enjoy it.
For sure. This is a time for you to shine. You know, take a lot of creative liberty. Don't feel, I don't want you to feel pinned in by this. I know sometimes you can get, you know, think about the people on the show Chopped, right? Mark asked about that earlier. You get this box of stuff and maybe you know what the things in it are and maybe you don't. I've had students before who got kohlrabi in their box and they were like, I don't know what to do with this. So Google is a great resource. If you don't know what something is, look it up. Look at the ways it can be cooked. Look at different presentations of it. We found out with the kohlrabi, it makes a beautiful Napoleon. You know, you slice it really thin, fry it, and then stack it up. It looks great on the plate. So be open to these unusual ingredients that you might be getting. And if you have any questions about them, please reach out. We're both more than happy to help you, you know, talk about ideas. If any of you want to ask a couple of questions right now, you can do that and we can certainly talk about it some more in study hall. But this is a really, really cool opportunity that y'all have to shine.
I would also suggest really think about, you've got these gorgeous products, literally products that almost nobody gets to handle other than some of the finest dining establishments in the US with the, you know, when we're looking at per se 11 Madison Park, restaurants like this that are getting products like this. So really highlight them, show off their color, utilize, maybe you want to look at them and doing a different cut on them than what you traditionally see to highlight that fresh beauty. Taste everything raw first. Maybe think, hey, you know what? Actually, this would be really nice julienne and mixed with some other components to have a little beautiful garnish on top of a piece of seared fish. Think about, you know, utilizing these products and making them shine. They should be the highlights of the dish because they're seasonal and absolutely scrumptious. Jorge, I see your hand is up.
So the question is, we are only expected to do one main dish. I don't know what the box is going to have, but it may have elements that can go into a soup as well, which would be another course of meal. And I don't know if there are going to be any fruits in there, which can also raise it to dessert. So I'm just wondering whether it's going to be, or are we just only looking for one dish, or we can do more than one?
You can do more than one. My thoughts about a soup for your final are, I really want to see something on a plate. If you want to make some soup to serve on the side, that's okay. Chef, do you have a different?
Yeah, I would say no soups. Okay. I mean, you've got these, we want to see a starch, a protein, a vegetable, all cooked independently. A soup is really pretty easy because you're tossing it all in the pot, right? We don't want to see that. We want you executing and thinking about how to highlight this dish and present individually prepared components of this dish, not just putting it all in and making a stew or a soup. Really let these products shine on their own and utilizing techniques that either you are fond of, that you really have enjoyed learning, or something that perhaps you struggled with throughout the course and said, you know what, I want to give myself another chance at this. I want to give it a go and knock it out of the park with a beautiful hollandaise, right? Or you know, when I sauteed last, I didn't have correct heat control and I overcooked them, right? The vegetables. We want to make sure that you're really focusing on technique and highlighting the beauty of this box.
Absolutely. You'll get the box in week 12, or maybe last time they came out a little bit early. So you had them maybe close to the weekend before week 12.
Yeah, they get staggered. Some people will get them earlier. It's based on location, where you are located. Also, if you have recently moved, get in contact with online with registrar, because they have your address. We need to get that. You need to get that fixed like within the next day or so that they have an updated address if anybody has moved recently and you have not updated your address.
That's right. Yeah, if you want to use pasta, you do need to make it from scratch.
Indeed.
Nothing out of a box.
Remember, this is sorry, chef. Remember, this is your final cooking assignment. It's a culmination of all that you've learned throughout this past year. So bring your A game, step it up, really push the pedal to the metal. This is your time to shine. Richard, I saw your hand up.
You still there, Richard?
All right, let's hop to Alita, and Richard, if you can, come back to us.
Hi, chefs.
Hi.
My question is, I know it's a mystery box, but is everything in the box identified? You know, like, are there any labels on some things that we might have? Like, there's some vegetables out there that I don't know what they are and how you use them. Like you mentioned something called chard. I don't know what that is. So is that, I mean, like everything in the box, is it going to be identified? I mean, like with labels on it is my question.
Sometimes the bags do have little stickers on it, but we'll get the list of, you should first be getting an email with a list of the ingredients that are on there. We'll get a list as well so we can go through it. As far as what chard is, Swiss chard looks like this. It's often called rainbow chard because it comes in these beautiful varying colors, pink, yellow, orange, red, white. Usually in order to prepare this, you would take that large stem out.
Right.
Take that, if you were going to saute, let's say you wanted to make a beautiful saute out of some of these, you would take those stems off, chop those up, start cooking your stems first, and then add your leaves secondary so that they don't overcook because those stems are going to take longer to cook. Alternatively, you could say, you know what? I want to add something cool to this. I'm going to do a quick pickle on these charred stems and add this acidic crunch to this component and then saute the greens or incorporate the greens, maybe chiffonade them and incorporate that into a garnish as well. So just some ideas for that as well.
Okay, so is that like a mustard green type thing, or is it you know, is it collard green type thing? Is it kale, like any of those type flavors?
It is not as tough as your greens, nowhere near as tough as your greens. Those are really hardy leaves. The leaf is somewhere, have you ever cooked or eaten a beet green before?
Yes.
All right, they're similar to beet greens in texture, and they have that high minerality. Their flavor profile, just like beets, they soak up a lot of those nutrients from the soil.
So
Really
if they
earthy.
were to be like, say, if you had to boil them, it wouldn't take as long as like a collard green or something like that. They could be. I like to fry.
Definitely. And you probably wouldn't want to boil them. If anything, you want to preserve that because they're going to turn really quickly. So you blanch or saute.
Right. Okay. That's my question. Thank you, Chef.
Yeah, you're welcome. Great questions.
All right, Richard, we'll come back to you.
All right.
Hey,
Yeah,
hey,
Chef.
Richard's got, he messaged. Okay, there we go.
Okay, all right, now I got it.
Cool.
It wouldn't let me unmute. I'm going to, because I'm trying to go a little bit further. I'm gonna let me see the video here. Okay, I actually did my my sheets already. I'm trying to, because I'm going on vacation and everything, so I want to try to get everything situated beforehand. But it came out. Now my question is, can I roll it up? Like if I do it again, can I roll it up and like like have it like in like a block where I can slice it, because all it is, it's like blue cheese without the blue cheese. I mean, you know what I mean? So it's just like crumbles.
Yeah, yeah, it's meant to be crumbly. I don't know that you can compress it enough to slice it and get like a consistent slice. It might break apart. You can try.
Right.
It is a crumbly cheese, and it is very, very mild in flavor. So you can add some salt and pepper to it. You can add some dried herbs
Oh,
to it.
it's actually good the way that it is. I'm not a cheese person, but it actually has good flavor to it though. Just as is.
Mhm.
So it definitely worked out. I gave some to my manager, and along with the mustard that I made, and he told me it was awesome. He's like he never had fresh, you know, and he gave some to his mother, and she loved it as well.
That's awesome.
So you know, yeah, I really do love this.
Cool.
But like I said, I made my own cheese already, and then I'm gonna start. Like I said, I'm trying.
Oh, we lost you, Richard.
We'll come back to you, Rich. Oh, there you are. Make sure to save some of that for your siernicki.
Gotcha.
That's the farmer's cheese that you're going to use.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I still have about maybe I'm gonna say probably 2 to 3 cups left.
Yeah.
Roughly. It's nice. It's a nice size mason jar.
Yeah. Awesome.
Good. The one thing of doing a shape, if you're going to do it, if you're going to try to execute that, the time that you're going to want to do that is when you're taking your cheesecloth, and you could get like a ball formation or a half ball by squeezing it and then letting it set in that. Once you've squeezed it all, right, that's going to hold that.
Yes.
You can keep it in that form, but it still might crumble when you try to slice it. But that's the best chance of getting a semi mold of a form. But because
with this, I don't see no type of way of making a mold with it. To be honest,
at that point you're past it, because you would have to do that right in the beginning when you're starting to squeeze that out.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Be able to kind of hold a shape, but it's not going to be necessarily cuttable, sliceable.
No, I got you. So yeah.
We're losing you again. Hey, Richard, maybe try to.
That's nice.
And come. Oh, there you go.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Awesome.
Great question. Barbara.
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So what he had was the creme fraiche stuff that we made last week.
No, that's the cheese for week 11. He's working ahead.
Okay. All right. Because mine turned out solid, and he was saying it was crumbly, and I was like, okay. I just want to make sure it was the right texture.
Sure.
All right.
You want to roll us into preserved meat?
Let's do it, Chef.
Okay.
All right. So let the preservation continue, right? This week, we're leaving the veggies behind, and we are, well, not fully, but we're moving into meat preservation. The word confit, all right, that we're going to be making chicken confit this week, CONFIT, pronounced confit, is the term that comes from the French language. Like we know, so many of our terms in the cooking world are derived from the French language, right? And it really means to cook food in fat or oil or sugar at a low temperature, all right? You might have seen confiture, right? Confit of lemon rinds or orange rinds, and that can be considered confit as well, because that's cooked and preserved in sugar, just like fat, right? And oil can confit and preserve, so too can sugar. When we look at this word confit, traditionally, it is made out of duck legs. Now, if you have access to duck, highly suggest giving it a go. You will be rewarded greatly by the flavor profile of duck confit. Alternatively, if you found some turkey legs could be suitable for this as well. But the most important thing here is that you are using legs and thighs. Breasts and lean meats, cuts of meat will not work in the confit preparation. It's not to say that you can't. However, what's one of the biggest difference that we notice, that you all notice, between white meat and dark meat? Fat. Fat is part of it. Muscle type, yeah. Moisture. What else? Cooking times and texture, flavor, color. All great answers. Oh, drying out quickly, right? That white meat, breast meat, tends to dry out quicker than dark meat, right? And what do we know about cooking techniques for certain types of cuts of meat, right? Just like we have certain cuts of meat that we would braise or low and slow cook, or high fast and high and hot. This is starting to play into the muscle type. And most importantly, collagen. Who remembers what collagen is? Where do we find collagen?
That's right. Bone. Under the skin and the bone.
In the joints.
The joints.
The joints is where a lot of that collagen is located, all right? Now, when else have you seen or did you hear about collagen and utilizing collagen to thicken something up? Think back to your stock days in CU101.
Barbara, I like that, Barbara. I do use collagen for my face. But back in the beginning, what did you use it for?
Remember the discussion about chicken feet? Adding it to your stock, because it's full of collagen, right? Adds a lot of body to that stock. All right, so does anybody know what temperature collagen starts to break down? This is a more scientific question, but we're getting into some scientific, talk about muscles right now. See, Eddie, you're close at 140. You're close. 135, again, another good guess. At about 154, collagen of the type 1 collagen starts to denature and break down. Okay, remember, this is where we're going to have that low and slow cooking. All right, so let's also take a look at this. The recipe. I want to bring up the recipe so we have a better base idea of what we're going on, and then so we can go deeper. Yeah, chef.
I've got it ready to pull
Okay,
up.
awesome.
I also have some show and tell for that.
Perfect.
There you go.
All right, so as we can see, when we work through this recipe, we've got 2 pounds and it says chicken parts, preferably legs or wings. I highly suggest not utilizing wings. If you look from a sustainability point, they just kind of don't hit the mark. Also, wings tend to be quite expensive. Now you'll find some beautiful confit wings on some, really cool bistros that will confit their meat and then deep fry it. But if you're taking the time to confit this meat, it's a 2 hour, it's about a 1.5 to 2 hour cook time. So get some results out of that. You want to get some beautiful meat coming out of there. All right. With the wings, you're going to have a lot of skin. All right. And unless you're transforming that afterwards, it's not going to be the most delightful finished product. Okay. So chicken parts, so legs and thighs, or if again, turkey, duck, all of those will work. Moving through, you see that the next step is taking salt and then white pepper, nutmeg, and powdered bay leaf and ground cloves. What do we think that rubbing that salt does first? We need to sit this overnight in the fridge. What is the salt starting? Dries it out, starts taking out some of that excess moisture. Exactly, right? It starts curing it as well. It starts penetrating the meat with salt and your spices. Now, two things to note with these spices. If you do not have white pepper, you can substitute black pepper. If you do not, powdered bay leaf is traditionally found in restaurants, and it's really easy to order in a restaurant setting, not easy to find. So there are a few ways you can get powdered bay leaf. One, toss it into your coffee grinder, grind it up. You've got powdered bay leaf. Two, just crush it in your hand. If they're dry, some bay leaves are fresher than others, but some really dry ones will crush really easily. That's also going to do the trick. Same goes for ground cloves. If you only have whole cloves, you could just take those whole cloves and a bay leaf, toss it into your coffee grinder and let it roll, right? And you're going to toss that in there. Next, what you're going to do is after letting that sit overnight, you're going to be ready to get going. All right. You want to preheat that oven to 300 degrees. Again, this is low and slow. And then you need to make sure that your protein is fully submerged underneath the oil. This is the key component here. All right. You need to be fully submerged in the oil. Then you put on a piece of parchment, tin foil. So you've got a nice tight seal, and throw that in the oven. You're gonna make sure that your chicken is so tender that it's just ready. You could almost pull that bone right out. Not quite there like you see on Instagram, but almost there. All right. You do need to make sure that you strain this fat and save for another use. All right. Another use being, you could use that as the base for, typically what you'll do in a restaurant setting, you will take that oil and you'll save it for another batch of confit. Now, what I want to ask is, when else do we see lots of oil being used to cook a product? Barbara's leading towards it. Frying, yes. But what's the difference between, what do we use when we're frying? What type of temperature are we going in for that oil? Hot, high heat oil, right? When we fry something, we don't want the oil fully penetrating that meat, right? We don't want a soggy finished product. All right. That's not the goal of frying. So this is not frying. This is confiting. All right. Very different, because we're talking about really low heat. It's going to be low and slow to slowly pull out that collagen, tenderize it. A lot of people have some hesitancy thinking, oh, this is going to be greasy. It is not. Again, due to the muscle, the structure of the muscle, this product will be really lovely and extremely tender. What happens is, and I can send out extra information, we get into really some scientific, but basically it's about moisture, either staying within those muscles as opposed to leaving, all right, when we're confitting and doing low and slow. So really important that you go nice and low and slow, and that everything is fully submerged. I cannot stress that enough, because if you submit work where your chicken is halfway up and not submerged in the oil, you're not confitting. You have essentially not adhered to the recipe requirements. So a few suggestions to make this work: a deeper pan, all right, and shallow. If you have a really long, big, wide pan and a few legs in there, your oil, you're gonna need a lot more oil to fill up all that extra space. So make sure that you're do a check before you just go buck wild. Get a container out, right? An oven safe container. Put your chicken legs or thighs or parts in there. See how much space it takes up, right? Because realize that whatever space is around on the edge is going to have to be filled up with oil. So if you go for a deeper, smaller container, you're gonna have more success with that. It's okay if you have, some layers of chicken legs in there. The most important is that you're fully submerged. Another thing to address, if you choose to dance with the devil and you get really close and fill up your container almost to the brim with your chicken, you risk the chance for an oven fire. When that oil starts to spill over or you're pulling it out, you're going to have a huge mess. First and foremost, put a tray underneath your casserole dish. If your casserole dish is really shallow and you're filling it up to the brim with oil. But remember, that is really dangerous. You would not use that in a kitchen setting. Mostly you're going to be using larger 6 pans, right? That means 6-inch deep so that you've got some space on top. So you're not going to have an accident in the kitchen. So safety first, right? You're risking fire and a potential massive mess that you're going to have to clean up. So I'm warning you ahead of time. You don't want to do that. Put a sheet tray underneath and make sure you're using a deep container to execute this. Yeah, chef.
We got a couple of questions in the chat. Can you use a cast iron Dutch oven with the top? Yeah, I think that would work fine.
Yeah, definitely.
As far as your oil goes, you don't have to use canola oil as long as you're using an oil that has a smoke point below 300. So for instance, yesterday when I made this, I didn't have enough canola oil. So I added in some olive oil and some safflower oil. Totally fine to do that. You can split it up and use 2 different pans. That's fine. And if you are using duck, you can use duck fat. It's expensive. It's
But
really
it's
expensive.
delicious.
Yeah. So yeah, if you want to do that, by all means. Peanut oil will work. Yeah. Peanut oil has a really high smoke point. It's used for frying a lot. I know we've got a couple other recipes to go through, so I'll wait and share my photos in study hall.
Perfect. I think that sounds a great idea.
All right. So
I've
you
got
want me
some pictures as well too.
okay. You want me to pull up the next recipe?
Yeah, chef, let's rock it.
Okay. You want to do the latkes or the gravlax?
Let's go gravlax.
Okay.
Since we're talking about meat curing, we're going to hop from, instead of preserving, remember, we'll talk about this more in study hall. There's a lot to talk about confit, but remember, you'd be submerged in fat, and fat keeps oxygen out, which preserves the meat for long haul.
Can you see that?
Yes, chef.
Okay, cool. So you're going to have about a pound of salmon, again, skin on. You're going to check it for pin bones. So if you run your finger along the, there'll be a little like ridge in the fillet. And if you feel any pin bones, pull those out with some tweezers or some needle nose pliers, and then just run your hand back over it a couple of times to make sure you got them all. You're going to mix together your salt, sugar, and pepper, and sprinkle half of this mixture on a non-reactive container, glass or ceramic. And then if you don't have one of those containers, you can put plastic wrap down and put that mixture on top of it. You're going to put your salmon skin side down in the mixture and then sprinkle the rest on top. Add your dill sprigs and your vodka if you're using that. And then you want to cover it really tightly, or wrap it really tightly of plastic wrap if that's what you're going to use, and refrigerate it for 24 hours. Then flip it and refrigerate it for another 24 hours. So this is going to take some time. You'll want to get ahead of this before the due date. After you take it out of the refrigerator, you will rinse it off and then slice it very, very thinly. So when you're slicing, and I usually have my slicer in here to show you all, but let's say this is your fillet, okay? So you're going to take your slicer and drag it really slowly through that flesh in one movement at an angle so that you get some super thin slices of that gravlax. We can talk about plating that when we get over to the study hall, and I'll go grab my knife and show y'all a little bit more clearly. If you want to do a cured egg yolk, if you're in my class, if you want to do a cured egg yolk, that's fine. And I can get you a recipe for that. I have a couple of students with fish allergies that have reached out, and that's a good alternative. If you're not allergic to salmon, please do the salmon. you know, we want you to have that experience. Any questions about the gravlax recipe? Chef, anything you want to add to that?
Just another alternative if you cannot find salmon would be trout, a thick trout. That can work as well.
Mhm. All right, real quickly, we'll go through the other recipe. How many of you have had, I call them latkes because my best friend's grandmother called them that. So latkes is usually how it's pronounced. But you want to make sure that you use russet potatoes, these starchy potatoes, peeled and grated. If you are, when you think about preparing this recipe, you want to get everything ready. And I would save your potatoes till last so that they don't oxidize. You want to grate them up right before you add them with the, you know, the onion and the potato, add the flour, egg, and salt and pepper. If you do grate your potatoes ahead of time, put them in some water and then make sure you're squeezing every bit of that water out before you add it to the other ingredients. You're going to cook these in a pan. So you're going to kind of, after it thickens for about 5 minutes, you're going to make a little scoop, kind of like you're making a, I don't know, some sort of fritter, and put those in the pan. Get your pan really hot, add your oil, and then add your mixture to the pan. And it's going to cook up to a nice golden brown. Then you'll flip it over, and voila, there is your finished product. Your creme fraiche is a great thing to use to garnish the gravlax. They are traditionally served with sour cream, maybe some chives, or sometimes you'll see them served with applesauce. So any questions about that recipe?
Just see a comment about how it's delicious served with applesauce and sour cream. Really traditional presentation, especially when you go to, if you've ever been to a great Jewish deli, you'll see latkes and you'll come out with two little bowls, one of sour cream and one of applesauce.
Yeah, they're awesome.
And the large size of the grater,
Yeah.
Amber, you want that large one. Richard, I wouldn't do catfish, stick to salmon or trout for this recipe for curing. You can also, I'm going to post from Chef Chris, one of these, a great plating video that he did with his cured gravlax and latkes and a few little, beautiful other components there. When you think about how to present this, there's a lot of ways where you can really have some fun with these two components. Adding some, capers to the dish for a little bit of hit of salt. If you think about that traditional spread with lox and capers, hard-boiled eggs for that spread, really jazzed up that creme fraiche. Some nice spring onion as well. You can have a lot of fun with that presentation and make a nice spread. These are hands down one of the most delicious, in my opinion, things ever. You've got, first of all, we're talking about potatoes. Everybody loves, well, I love potatoes. You get these crispy, craggly edges that have been just frying in that oil, and then inside is soft and tender, savory. Always remember you want to sprinkle, remember it's potatoes, sprinkle with some salt after frying, after pan frying. But you're going to develop this gorgeous golden brown, crunchy exterior that literally just will, gobble up.
I'll be putting a video or a slideshow up of that too. I ordered potatoes yesterday and got sweet potatoes. And so I'll be doing that later. You want to show his video or?
I don't have this video right now, but I'm going to put that up on the class page later. But what I will show, if since we've got a few more minutes, I just want to hop back into the confit and talk a little bit about, if it's okay with you, Chef, the confit, where you'll traditionally see confit. We were talking about it hailing from France, right? Now, the beautiful part of duck confit, again, this is a preservation technique. So what you'll see in the winter, in the fall, you'll have a dish called cassoulet that is also consumed in the southwest of France, in Toulouse, traditionally. So as you can see, you will usually have white beans. They're so slow cooked. You've got your sausage, as well as usually duck confit or some larger pieces of pork belly, and that is slowly simmered. And let's see, cassoulet with duck confit. Now I want to show you two things when we get to the duck confit as well. So as you can see, you get this gorgeous finished dish, really exquisite, heavy, fatty, rich, and perfect for the winter. Again, preservation, right? Saving that. You're going to do normally you would do a large batch of confit if we're looking at a restaurant setting, a really big pan. And you would, for service, you would pull out a few legs, right? A few full legs, and to reheat, you've got a few ways of reheating. Now, one is because you can't imagine, right? Just like risotto, you're not cooking that to order necessarily, unless you're, telling the guests, well, that's going to be a 35-minute wait. So confit, you've got to wait an hour and a half to 2 hours. Nobody's going to wait for that. So you have to cook that previously. Then you would gently warm it up in two ways, either in the oven or in a saute pan. But the most important thing is getting the color. So I do want to show you this color difference. When we're thinking about a product and a protein being cooked low and slow in the oven, what do we think that the skin is going to come out looking like? Is it going to come out of the oven like this? It's going to come out of the oven like that? What do you think? White, dull, muted, boring. Yeah, exactly. Right? It's not going to have this beautiful color development because it's been submerged in the fat. All right. It's not getting that intense heat from the broiler. What you'll see in the end when you first pull it, I had a one, but oh, where are we? Where are we? You'll see it's going to look something like this. All right. Let's see if we're getting that. Not a lot of color here, right? Pale. Now, how would we do? Yeah, it would look like it's steamed. How do you think you would get that beautiful, gorgeous, crunchy, brown, golden skin? How can you achieve that after executing this? Pan, sear, or broil. Yeah, excellent. Right, that's how you're going to develop that crust. That's how you're going to get that color and that texture. Otherwise, that skin is not going to be desirable. It's going to have no texture to it and really not appetizing. You could deep fry it, but you're really just, it's redundant at that point. You want to get, you've taken all this time to get beautiful tender meat. You don't want to risk, deep frying it at that point. You're going to want to throw that in a pan fryer or broil it. All right, to get the best finish. Torch, I highly suggest avoiding torch. I'm old school. I think that the torch lends a lot of artificial gas flavor to anything that you're torching. It's just, for me, I just don't think you get the best color development. I don't think it's always even, and you get this gasoline taste to it if you've ever experienced that. So you want to just go with the broil there, or a pan sear. What was else I was going to say? Oh yeah, I saw that coming up. Juniper berries. Yeah, juniper berries, you could throw in your duck confit for sure. Juniper berries look like this. They are similar to, my internet is being really slow right now.
You want me to pull them up?
I got it, finally. Thank you, Chef.
You're welcome.
This is what juniper berries look like. They're in close relation to the fir tree, so they have some of that piney effervescence and notes to it. Obviously, this is what they look like fresh, and this is what they're going to look like dry. Almost like dried blueberries, but much smaller. So if you want to throw a few juniper berries in there, go for it. Yeah, Loretta, you do put juniper is often used in gin. distillation process.
You should be able to find those in the spice aisle in your grocery.
Or a specialty spice store.
Mhm. It's not going to necessarily impart a ton of flavor when you've got that much oil. It's just going to be, there'll just be a little nuance of that sort of pine-like effervescence, as Chef mentioned.
Just like the juniper tree, right? So the fir trees. All right. Does anybody have any questions regarding these 3 recipes before we take a quick break and then hop right into study hall? All right, well, let's rock and roll.